Hi there, Cancer. Welcome to your April 2020 Life Path reading or Life Path update. I've done these in the past. I haven't done it in a really long time. And I thought that given what has been going on, that it's created a lot of maybe interest in life itself. If you are on the spiritual path, you probably live a very intentional life as it is, but there might be somebody wandering through here who has been rethinking some of the choices in their life. Perhaps it has to do with a certain stage in life, either being somebody who is of the, maybe in your 20s, or somebody who is middle-aged, who is at a kind of a turning point in their life. People who have graduated college sometimes have this sense of like going into a certain profession and then thinking, oh man, that wasn't like that wasn't how it was presented when I was studying it in school. When I'm actually on the front lines, it doesn't seem as interesting or something that I want to do. So those kinds of things. That's funny. I got that just for, I was shuffling, while I was talking, I was shuffling so much. And it's funny that I got the same card as the present time that I just got for Sag. I did Sag's reading yesterday. Here, this is Sag's card actually, which is kind of funny. Okay, I'm going to pick an additional card because of what this card means. It's not like a resolution type of card, I feel. So you got a lot of swords. It's funny, I can hear all of a sudden some kind of stereo outside, and I think that it's the Amazon truck, because I always blast music. I noticed that. So hopefully they will be out of here pretty soon. Okay, so where you are right now is represented by the Hermit card, and this is about just on the literal level. I mean, you may just be spending a lot more alone time. I'm not talking about the last couple of weeks. I'm talking about maybe even the last few years. And the point is, you may not have, one day made a decision to do that. It may just have been that it worked out that way. And usually when that happens, it's because you either get disgusted with a lot of the social interactions that you have, and it just feels more and more painful, like you can't understand the other person, or people, and they can't understand you. So usually like some kind of a spiritual awakening that can happen very easily, or that you just lose interest in those kinds of activities that before really captivated you, or maybe a combination thereof. There's the possibility too that some people have just been really involved in a particular goal, that maybe a spiritual goal that requires a lot of alone time, like you're, I don't know, studying to be a meditation teacher, and you have to do that, or maybe you're going through some kind of, like some kind of apprenticeship where you have to be alone a lot. That's part of the development of the course, a shaman, what have you. Or you just, like I said, you just want to be, and it just turned out this way. And where you want to be, where you want to go at this time. Because this is not necessarily, sometimes when I do this, it can be connected to career matters and things like that, but it can just be like where you're at in a path. I mean, you can have a time in your life where you're not necessarily employed, or maybe you're retired. So maybe the Hermit card is you've retired and you're kind of have gone into yourself. I was going to say your shell, being the crab, but you want to be more balanced. That's what the Temperance card. It's like 1 foot in water, 1 foot on land. The spiritual and the material, not just not being ungrounded, where it's like you're too into the spiritual life and not practical enough, not engaged enough. One of the things, I think it was the law of attraction, Abraham Hicks said that really resonated with me was about this idea of being in the world. So you could say being in the world, but not of the world. And I certainly feel that that might be what's going on here. But definitely this idea of, in some cases, that sense of honoring the fact that you're here. I've heard more than one teacher talk about this idea that we're rejecting the world, if you're on a spiritual path. And it does resonate with me that makes absolutely no sense. So, people who are meditating 10 hours a day, what exactly are they doing? What is the goal? What is the end game? What is the point in turning away from the world that much? Is that going to really get them where they want to be? Or listening to teachings that talk about the world as this terrible place? Well, you have to believe that you're being put here as a punishment then, if you think that the world is a terrible place, because that's where you exist in this moment. And that just doesn't make sense to me. I think that, like the Temperance card, it can be both. It can be that we are in the world but not of the world, but we don't deny that we are here, and we don't live in the upper chakras where we're, this is all an illusion, and yet we still suffer. We still suffer, and we try to play it off as something else. I think that it means that when you are experiencing any kind of negativity or contrast, that you're able to totally, rather than escape, that you're totally able to embrace whatever you're feeling in this moment and not try to make it as something other than what it is. And I think that that's how we transcend some of these challenges, rather than acting like we're above it all. And also, just in connection to the Temperance card, if we talk about this idea of balance in one's life, if you've been alone too much, you might want to seek out more community. Now, I usually think of water signs. Scorpio, maybe not, but definitely Cancer and Pisces as being more people, people who enjoy the company of other people. And if you have kind of found yourself closing off because of that, it may be something that it had a very, there might have been a good reason for it at the time, but perhaps it's become such a habit that it's hard to kind of moderate it. Cancer is the crab, and the crab does have that shell that's very hard, but it's very tender inside, and Cancer a lot of times will tend to kind of, crawl back into the shell when it feels threatened, but too much of that is then becoming an escape or imbalanced. in some way. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with people who just find that they are introverts and they like it and it's just who they are. But I'm saying if this is kind of new behavior for you and normally you were more social and things like that, then perhaps it's been a little bit more of a reaction to something. Also, another thing to remember is that it may have been that you were with the wrong person or wrong people. And so maybe you threw the baby out with the bathwater and just thought that the whole world has gone to, I'll just say, crap. And, you can't trust anyone. You just made these blanket statements and just kind of were nursing your wounds by yourself. And it just became habitual. I want to say, though, that in May, the North Node, which is currently in your sign, will be transiting through your 12th house. So I connect the hermit to the 12th house. So it's not like it's going to go anywhere. Unless you happen to have, if your natal chart, and maybe you have Cancer rising as well, and you have a later degree, maybe your North Node is currently in your 12th house. But either way, it will be going into your 12th house at some point. And that will perhaps bring people to you that have a spiritual influence. And this may run the gamut of how that will affect your life, but it could be very meaningful for your life at this time. In a couple of months, this is happening. The advice is the 10 of Swords, and this is a card of betrayal and also the end of a cycle. I think that the advice is understanding that if you feel like you have been suffering in some way, that's what I'm wondering about, because I used the term suffering earlier, and I would kind of said to myself, why are you using that term? Well, maybe there's a reason. Maybe some of you have been feeling that way. You did have a lunar eclipse in your sign in January. That might have been the part of this, what the 10 of Swords represents, where something felt very like it was over. Usually with the 10 of Swords, though, I would say if you did not personally experience a betrayal, this could be, if this is happening, the lunar eclipse happened in your first house. So it can be that you realized what your needs are and that you're not going to allow anybody to dishonor you, to disrespect you. And if you have experienced in a relationship, if you experienced infidelity, for instance, and you forgave the person because you wanted to believe that they were really sorry as they claimed they were, and yet you feel like you're getting screwed again. It's really about what you decide to do. Actually, come to think of it, I could have left this alone because this is the potential outcome, the 3 of Swords, and this could be you deciding to make a clean break from something. And, one thing I didn't say, because I didn't want to turn this into kind of a relationship reading, but it could be something along the lines of the hermit could be that you are separated from a partner, and I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, that you took the initiative, because with the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse, and this is a powerful full moon, so it really represents the opposition to the sun in the 7th house. And being, really realizing what your needs are. And that might have been, even if it was painful to separate from somebody, maybe not forever, maybe just to kind of clear your head. But if you have felt like that person has been dangling some kind of a carrot, you may decide to make a clean break, and that might be with the Three of Swords. It's just like very clean, precise, and not allowing something to drag on. And this can apply to different senses of betrayal that you may have felt. Betrayal is not just in relationships with a significant other. It can be in the workplace. It can be in with a friend. You know, it can be just about anything, any scenario. But the common denominator is a feeling of being let down, that somebody that you trusted didn't honor you enough to treat you in a certain way. And even if you're talking about a significant other, that they didn't seem to care enough about you to tell you that they were seeing somebody else. It's not just necessarily telling you what you want to hear, but just even being straight with you. So I picked an additional card just because I don't, I'll be honest. I keep saying, well, it's not really a card of resolution, but even if we could say that, I like to end things. When I think a card has more of a negative connotation, I'd rather pick another card. And the Ace of Swords. So we have more swords. Swords are really about communication, your thoughts, and it's sometimes conflict or drama, whatever you want to call it. But this Ace of Swords really is about clarity in your life, being able to see what's really happening so that you can make the right decision for you, because you may feel like you're in this in-between stage. When I said that, the first thing that popped into my mind is the solar eclipse in your sign on the summer solstice on June 21st, or winter solstice if you live somewhere else other than where I live. And I just feel like it's a debut. It's at 0 degrees of Cancer. So maybe a reset. Maybe between now and June 21st, this is a great time for you to really get clear, which is what the Ace of Swords is about, on exactly, on all areas of your life, not just one, Cancer, because I believe this is the last year you're going to have eclipses in your sign, and the North and South nodes are changing from Cancer and Capricorn as well. And we end the year with a lunar eclipse in Cancer, December 30th. So definitely there's the Cancer influences are still alive and well for the remaining 3/4 of this year, or whatever you want to call it, over half of this year. And so this could be the time when you can hit the ground running when you have your solar return. That would be really cool. And when I say solar return, I'm not talking about just the sun going into Cancer, but on your the exact degree of your sun, whatever date that is. It may not be on your exact birthday, but within a day of it or so. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. And if you would like an astrological version of this, I do these with the natal chart, and again, it's looking at people who are kind of sometimes looking for maybe validation that their dreams are valid. Also, I do natal chart interpretations and things like that. So my website is RainaMoonAstrology.com. That's AI, Raina like rain. The link is below. Take care. Bye.